guys, and welcome back to Reading Clubs. So today I'm going to read you Dirty Birdie Mud, the third story, which is called Spooky. Chapter 1. Bertie couldn't wait. Darren and Eugene were coming for a sleepover, and they were going to sleep in the tent in the garden. All he had to do was convince his parents. "I'm sorry, Bertie," said Mum. "I don't think it's a good idea." "Why not?" asked Bertie. "Because last time you woke up all the neighbours. We were only having a water fight. It was 2 a.m. We had half the street banging on the door." "We won't do it again," promised Bertie. "You'll be really, really quiet." Mum sighed wearily. "In any case, I don't even know where the tent is." Dad came into the kitchen. "Dad," said Bertie, "do you know where the tent is?" In the garage, I expect. Can we sleep in it tonight?" "I don't see why not." "Great," said Bertie. The doorbell rang and he dashed off to answer it before his parents could change their minds. "Guess what?" said Bertie as Darren and Eugene staggered through the front door carrying their bags. "Mum and Dad said yes, we can sleep in the tent." "Brilliant," said Darren. "We can have a water fight." They found the tent under a pile of junk at the back of the garage. It had been Dad's brilliant idea to buy it. He said they'd have lots of wonderful family camping holidays and save a fortune, but as it turned out, they'd only been camping once. It had rained all weekend, the tent nearly blew away in the gale, and their sleeping bags had got soaked. They left in the morning with Mum vowing she would never go camping again. Bertie shook out the contents of the bag onto the grass. Eugene stared at the jumble of pegs and poles. "Shouldn't we read the instructions?" he asked. "No need," said Bertie. "It's simple. I've done it hundreds of times." This wasn't strictly true. The tent had only been up twice, and Bertie hadn't helped at all. Bertie and Eugene wrestled with the poles while Woofer got in the way and sat on the ground sheet. Darren lolled on the grass reading a comic. At last they were finished, and Bertie stood back to admire their work. "It looks a bit wonky," frowned Darren. "It's meant to be wonky," said Bertie. "Can I let go of the poles now?" called Eugene from inside. "Wait a minute," answered Bertie. "I've got to do the pegs." Bertie went around with a mallet, hammering pegs into the ground. Darren went back to his comic. Whiffer was sniffing around the tent, eager to join in. He seized one of the guy ropes in his mouth and started to pull. The peg shot out. The tent leaned dangerously to one side. "No!" yelled Bertie. "Whiffer, let go!" Growled Whiffer, shaking his head from side to side. "Bag dog!" cried Bertie, trying to grab the rope. Whiffer backed away, the rope still in his teeth. The tent stretched and stretched. Thwang! A dozen pegs shot out of the ground, and the tent collapsed in a heap. "Mother!" cried a voice from underneath. "Okay, Eugene, you can let go now," said Bertie. Chapter 2. After supper, Dad went out to the garden to sort out the tent. Bertie sat in his bedroom with Darren and Eugene checking their supplies for the night. "Comic?" said Bertie. "Check." "Torches?" "Check." "Midnight feasts?" "I brought the crisps," said Darren. "I got the chocolate biscuit," said Bertie. "I got some muesli bars," said Eugene. The other two gave him a look. "What? It's all I could get. My mum says they're good for you." Bertie rolled his eyes. "What about weapons? Is everybody armed?" Darren had a space gun he'd got for his birthday. Bertie tucked his pirate dagger into his belt. Only Eugene had forgotten. "Why do we need weapons anyway?" he asked. Bertie shrugged. "Don't say we don't warn you." "It'll be dark," said Darren. "Really dark. You'll never know what might be out there." Eugene turned pale. "You're just trying to scare me," he said. Mom poked her head round the door. "Okay, the tent's all ready." "Great," said Bertie. "Wicked," said Darren. "Hooray," gulped Eugene, gripping his torch. Tiptoe, tiptoe, tiptoe. The three of them crept down the garden. Bertie led the way with Eugene keeping close behind. In the dark, the garden seemed much bigger than Bertie remembered. The moon was a ghostly white. The trees threw dancing shadows on the ground. "Wait," said Bertie, halting suddenly. "Where's Darren?" They looked around. "He was here a minute ago," said Eugene. They shone their torches into the bushes. "Darren!" called Bertie. "Where are you?" No answer. The tent flapped in the wind. "Darren, this isn't funny. Come out." Silence. "Maybe he went back for something," whispered Eugene. They looked back at the house. Weffer watched them hopefully from the kitchen where he was locked in for the night. Sorry. There was a rustle in the bushes. Bertie swung around. "Darren, is that you?" Deathly silence. "Maybe we'd better wait in the tent," said Bertie. Good idea," stammered Eugene. They both bolted down the garden. Eugene wrestled the zip. "Arr!" Something burst out of the bushes and grabbed Bertie around the neck. "Arr! Help!" howled Bertie. "Ha ha ha!" giggled Darren. "Did I scare you?" Bertie struggled free. "Course not. Liar, you practically wet your pants." "Didn't." "Did." "Didn't. We knew it was you, didn't we, Eugene?" "Eugene!" Eugene peeped his head out of the tent. "How's it gone?" Darren was still going on about his clever trick as they got into their sleeping bags. "Right, that's it," thought Bertie. "Two can play at that game." No one made a fool of Bertie, the terror of Class 3. Who had locked Mr. Weakley in the cupboard? Who had turned the house hose on Mr. Grouch, the demon caretaker? We'll soon find out which of us is the scaredy cat, scowled Bertie. By the time he had finished, Darren was begging for his mum. Chapter 3. "Pass the crisps," said Bertie. "All gone," said Darren. "Throw me your biscuits then." "None left." "There's still some muesli bars," said Eugene. Bertie burped. Wrappers, crisp packets, and biscuit crumbs littered the tent. He brushed them off of a sleeping bag. They'd read their comics, made shadows with their torches, and eaten their midnight feast, but still none of them felt the least bit sleepy. The wind moaned outside. "I've got an idea," said Bertie. "Let's tell ghost stories." "Well, no," wailed Eugene. "What's the matter? Scared you might have nightmares?" taunted Darren. "I love ghost stories. The scarier the better." "Who's going first then?" asked Bertie. "Eugene," said Darren. "Why me?" moaned Eugene. "I don't know any ghost stories." "Just make one up," said Bertie, "and to make it even spookier, we'll turn off our torches." Eugene turned pale. "But it'll be dark." "Right," said Darren. "I love the dark." "Me too," said Bertie. "Everyone ready?" Click. Off went the torches. The tent was plunged into the blackness. Eugene cleared his throat. "Once upon a time, there were 3 bears. Darren groaned. "That's not a ghost story." "It is. It's about ghosts." "You said it was about 3 bears." "It is. They're ghost bears." Eugene started again. "Once upon a time, there were 3 ghost bears who lived in a little ghost cottage in the ghost wood." "This is rubbish," grumbled Darren. "It's a fairy story." "No, it isn't." "Yes, it is. I bet Goldilocks comes and sits on the ghost chairs and eats the ghost porridge." "If you're so clever, you tell a story," said Eugene sulkily. Bertie saw his chance. "I've got one," he said. He was going to tell a story so hair-raising that Darren would be begging him to stop. "It was a dark, dark night," Bertie began. "The wind was moaning." "Ooh," moaned Darren. 3 boys were camping in a spooky haunted wood. Suddenly they heard. Bertie broke off. What? Suddenly they heard what?" asked Eugene. "Shh," said Bertie. "Listen." "Don't," whimpered Eugene. "You're scaring me." "Ooh, me too," said Darren, giggling. Bertie shook his head. "I'm serious. I think I heard something." "It's a ghost. We're all going to die," wailed Darren, clutching his throat and falling back on his pillow. "Shut up," said Bertie. "Listen." They all held their breath and listened. Thump. "Help," thought Bertie. "There really is something up there." Footsteps came down the path, closer and closer. Bertie froze. Darren gripped his arm. Suddenly the tent flap was unzipped and they were blinded by light. "Ah!" they yelled. "What's going on?" Mom shone a torch in their faces. "I came to check if everyone was okay." Bertie heaved a sigh of relief. "We're just going to sleep." "Yes," said Eugene. "Only first I need the toilet." Chapter 4. "Eugene," whispered Bertie. "Eugene, are you awake?" Eugene snored. "Darren?" Darren wheezed. Only Bertie couldn't sleep. How long had he been lying awake? Hours and hours. It must be the middle of the night. The ground was hard. His feet was like blocks of ice, and a howling draught was coming from somewhere. Worst of all, he kept thinking he could hear noises outside, strange, scuffling, moving about noises. "Mum!" called Bertie anxiously. "Mum, is that you?" No answer. His parents would be fast asleep by now. They wouldn't hear him, even if he screamed. Of course, he was only imagining things. It was the wind in the trees, or the tent creaking. It couldn't be anything else, like a headless ghost, for instance. Ghosts are only in ghost stories. As he peeped outside, there was no chance at all he'd seen a ghost. But just in case, maybe it was safer to stay in the tent. Nothing could get at him in here, unless it came through the walls. Thud. Bertie sat bolt upright. He had definitely heard something that time. He switched on his torch. How he wished he was back in his own bed. Whose stupid idea was it to sleep outside in a tent? Didn't his parents care if he was eaten alive? Scuffle, scuffle, scuffle. "Hello," crowed Bertie. No answer. If he was going to come face to face with a headless ghost, he didn't want to do it alone. "Darren!" he hissed. Darren went on snoring. "Darren, wake up!" What's going on? "Listen," said Bertie. "Something's out there." Darren yawned and rolled over. Yeah, nice try, Bertie. "No, I'm not joking this time. There is." Darren raised his head an inch. Scratch, scratch, scratch. He gasped. He reached under his pillow for a space gun. Bertie gripped his power dagger and put a finger to his lips. Maybe if they were quiet as mice, the ghost would pass on by. Thump! Ah! It was right outside the tent. Bertie could hear his heavy breathing. He froze in horror. The door of the tent was gaping open. Eugene must have forgotten to zip it up when he'd come back from the toilet. No wonder the tent was as cold as the grave. Bertie pointed. "Close the zip." "You close it," squeaked Darren. The thing was scratching at the tent, trying to get in. Bertie pointed the beam of his torch. "Help!" A gigantic shadow with savage teeth and a monstrous head loomed on the side of the tent. The next moment the thing burst in and was on top of him. "Get it off! It's eating me!" screamed Bertie. Darren was doubled up with laughter. Bertie sat up, pushing the monster off him. He stared at his floppy-eared attacker, who was now crunching on a muesli bar. "Woofer! How did he get out?" Darren grinned. "Someone must have forgotten to close the back door." "Eugene," said Bertie. "I'll kill him. Wait a moment. Where is he?" They both shone their torches. From the corner of the tent came the sound of peaceful snoring. Mum unzipped the flap, flooding the tent with morning light. "Good morning," she said brightly. "How did you all sleep?" "Great, thanks." Eugene sat up and stretched. In a sleeping bag, Bertie groaned. All night long he'd heard Whiffer lying on top of him, tossing and turning and whining in his sleep. Eugene and Darren had taken it turns to snore the loudest. Bertie hadn't slept a wink. "Who's for breakfast?" said Mum. "Bacon and eggs." Bertie turned a shade of green. He wiggled out of his sleeping bag and crawled out of the tent. "Bertie," said Mum, "where are you going?" "Back to bed," groaned Bertie. Well, that's the end of this book. I hope you'd enjoyed my readings of this Dirty Birdie Mad book, and I'll come back tomorrow with a new and more fun, I hope, Dirty Birdie series. So I'll see you later, guys. Bye.